Welcome to a special episode of the Firehouse Roundtable. We have two guest hosts today. Both of them have hosted the podcast before. Stephanie and Amanda are going to talk to Tiffany Atalla specifically about parenting and how to deal with your kids when you have someone at home who works long shifts and how to reintegrate them into the house and how to deal with parenting different styles. So big round of applause. Welcome Steph and Amanda and Tiffany to the show.
Welcome to the Firehouse Roundtable podcast, brought to you by the Ventura Fire Foundation. My name is Amanda Ellis. We are excited that you are going to spend some time at the Fire Wives kitchen table learning about the firefighter family issues that we are trying to bring awareness to. Thank you for joining us as we discuss the issues a firefighter family faces while our spouse is on and off duty and how it affects us. Welcome to the Firehouse Roundtable podcast. Thank you for letting us guest host today. My name is Amanda Ellis. It is a privilege to be a part of this coveted fire family. I am a wife of a Ventura City engineer. I have a background as an educator. I am a mama of two embarking on my first official year of homeschooling. I am grateful to be a board member of the Ventura Fire Foundation. Today, it is my honor to guest host with my dear friend, Stephanie K. She is a mentor and friend, and we are moms with kiddos in different phases of life. We thought it would be a great idea to create some deeper connection within the community and families of our beloved firefighters.
Hi there. I'm Stephanie, and it's a pleasure to be here, especially with Amanda and Tiffany. It's been, I've been married for 23 years. I have 3 kids. I am a nurse at an elementary school. My kids are 31, 28, and 23. Super excited to have the conversations both with Amanda and Tiffany today and learn more about parenting through the fire family.
Stephanie and I both had the pleasure of attending an in-person peer support workshop that Tiffany Atalla led in 2023. This workshop was such a game changer for me in creating connection as a wife of a firefighter who lateraled to this department with 2 young toddlers. I felt vulnerable in a safe space with my peers and that they could relate their shared experiences on such a deep level. Knowing Tiffany's many areas of expertise, Stephanie and I thought how supportive she could be when it came to navigating parenting within the firefighter families, as she is both a licensed marriage family therapist, a fire wife herself with kids. So this episode is a bite-sized snack of what Tiffany will be sharing on November 19th. Registration link in the show notes. And with that, it is my great honor and privilege to reintroduce and welcome back Ventura Fire Foundation's newest board member, Tiffany Atalla, as the guest on today's podcast. Thank you for being here, Tiffany. We are so excited to bring this topic to our community.
Thank you, Amanda and Stephanie. I got excited when you said newest member. I love what Ventura Fire Foundation's doing. So definitely honored to be here with both of you today. And it is pretty neat that we get to speak from the different ages and stages of parenting. You know, Stephanie, you're not done, right? Just because they're adults, you still have adult children. It's a real thing. And Amanda, you're walking through the beginning of these formative years and spending a lot of time with your children too, as an educator as well. And I'm doing a different task right now of raising the elementary school aged kids with sports and learning and working in life. So it's great to have all these perspectives. I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking about this today. And I'm really looking forward to the November 19th event, because when we all come together, the great ideas fly. And we are going to talk about some really effective tips and tricks for parenting in the fire family, effective parenting, I should say, of the fire family, and how we can be more united in our presentation, but also like each other better as we're so excited to get going today.
Awesome. Well, I'll start it off, I guess. I have a 4-year-old son, and he's really in the stage where he wants dad, and he seeks ways that he can, get dad's attention. And when dad's on duty, sometimes that's really hard. And when dad's off duty, that's also really hard. And so what are some ways that you can suggest that we, are able to foster that understanding of the value that dad provides in his job and not have like that resentful relationship of why dad's not coming home every day. If I'm hurt and dad's at work, can I call my dad so I could see my dad? How do we navigate that side of, parenting our young toddler through that?
Yeah, it's really complicated too, because their developmental understanding, right, of time and understanding of what the job brings. We all have this pride in the family for the job, and the child just goes, well, everybody gets my dad but me, And so when we look at that, I think it's really looking at developmental strategies that are practical. And some of those are really, really simple. I like seeing these things I'm starting to see online on Facebook and the Fire Family chats. Countdown calendars are great. So helping your kid count backwards on how many days, setting up things they can look forward to. And one of the things with looking forward to that comes to mind when I'm thinking of maybe a 4-year-old's development or even maybe a 6.5-year-old's development is that if they're looking forward to it, it can be almost overwhelming because they like instant gratification. So sometimes that can lead to outbursts and getting more upset. So it's always great if you have building blocks to get to something. Okay, so dad's going to come home. Look at the calendar. It looks like we have 2 more days. We better get the stuff to make the brownies that you and dad are going to be making. Okay. So maybe today we go get the chocolate chips and the brownie stuff. And then tomorrow you're going to help me print the recipe and color around it. So we have it set up when he gets here. Okay. So a lot of things where we're looking forward to it, but they're doing it in steps and you can break that down simply for them. I like those type of tangible things. Other things that I would offhand suggest is, yes, the basics. We have FaceTime and we have the ability to send pictures, but a really neat intervention has been when you give daddy your toy. And so my favorite has been if you have a stuffed animal that you want dad to take care of, and then we'll also take care of keeping dad safe at the fire station, that stuffed animal can go on a lot of different rides and dad can take lots of pictures with the stuffed animal. So then your kid is waiting to see what adventure, Bob the bear goes on, right? Did Bob the bear ride in the fire engine today? Did Bob the bear go get Starbucks? Did Bob the bear nap in the chair? Those type of funny, silly things make it so that we can prolong this and keep their energy alive. I think games where just like in marriage, if you have something you're looking forward to, you're usually more tightly connected. If you're sharing bids for connection, like John and Julie Gottman say in all their research, we're staying more in tune with one another and tightly connected. And so we're doing it on a developmental level that's appropriate for those littles that they can understand.
I actually really like that. There was a couple things that empowering kids, like you're giving them a job. And that can go in every stage. Like you said, in the developmental part, it gets more advanced as they get older, but it's still, you are an important member of this family and empowering them to gather those things. So like you said, we're going to go do, get the chocolate chips. We're going to get it ready, but you're giving them a job along with those, those countdown calendars and building on that. So they're not, like you said, they're not having the instant gratification is actually there in small little steps. And then just the picture with the toy, like that is so fantastic.
Right? So fun.
Can I start over? Like, hey, I feel like I'm here because of all the things that have gone wrong.
But what's interesting, even when we look at the things that in retrospect that may not have gone perfectly because we're in the moment doing it and it was hard and all these ideas and concepts sound fabulous, but it's hard to implement. I think one thing that is kind of a through thread for fire families is that our kids are more independent. So I'm going to brag for a second and say, hey, fire spouses, our kids are more independent. Our kids are more resilient. There are so many kids that cling on mom or dad's leg going to kinder or can't function without the one parent or the other. They're very needy for that person to tutor for homework. And our kids really do learn how to step it up. Like you said, Steph, they have a job and they're empowered. And I think that's one of our primary goals as a parent is getting them ready to be good humans in this world that are productive members of society. So yes, the fire service life does lend to that if we do it right as a team.
So good. Oh my gosh. I'm like giddy with excitement because I can so see Hudson just thriving with these things that you shared. And then even the pictures with like Bob the Bear, Harlow can relate a little more to that because she's a little bit younger and she's way more into dolls and stuffed animals. So,
well, Dad might be bringing a doll to work. So I don't know. It could be interesting.
I love it.
And that's true. We have fostering resilience, and how that plays. There's so many times, I'm a school nurse, and there's so many times where kids will ask, my mom has to do this, and having those conversations of, well, tell me about that. Tell me about what if you did it? What would that look like? And, finding that empowerment to be resilient. What would it look like if you were doing this right now, if you're filling out this chart, what would it look like? And to see their eyes open up and think, oh, I can do that is pretty cool.
It's so neat too, because it's also helpful for us. We lose creativity as we get older. The more time we spend being logical and analytical, it's at a loss to us. And so I love that idea of asking kids about what they can do or how they could do it. Hey, if you were daddy for a day, what does daddy do in the house? Now that's always funny to see. They put the things on and, but a lot of dads will say that too. A lot of parents will say that. Say, your job is to help while I'm gone, take care of whomever, sister or whatever. So we start that young. School age kids is a whole school age, I would say elementary to our early adolescent age is a whole nother phase of life too. And things are different. So
it's been interesting to see, when the kids are young, there's like this resentment that daddy's not home. And then there's like a hero period where they want to be just like, and then the adult of the reality of what it takes and why they're gone. And the mesh of, what's the word they use it? Where, a serving family, like, teachers, nurses, firemen, public servants. And as an example, my son started like the police and got his law enforcement degree and our criminal justice degree, and then realized my public servant is not in those regimented things. And how do I find my public service is actually in creating other things. And that's been really interesting to find. But the different stages of seeing their dads and navigating how do I make this work in his absence? And you were talking about Disneyland dad versus military dad, and it's hard to be the military mom and dad kind of come in and, toss everything in the air and throw it to the wall because daddy's home. So right. You had mentioned that too, Amanda.
Yeah, Amanda, I was going to say it's kind of interesting too. And you experience what I've experienced, which is, and I know Steph, you probably have too, because I think this is something anybody listening, if you're a spouse of a first responder, you've been through this where you're totally frustrated. You're at your wit's end. You've told them to stop touching each other in the car 18 times and sit in your own seat. And dad jumps in the car and you're headed to a movie and they do the same old thing that you've been talking about for the last 2 car rides and you're about to lose your mind. And dad's like, whoa, hold on. Do we have to be that harsh? And it's interesting to see how leave dad alone for a few days doing what we do. And I think the same response happens. I know the same response happens because I travel for work and I'm coming in going, whoa. I just re-entered the family. I've been teaching at these departments and it doesn't have to be that harsh, but I think that's just a factor. When you're absent from it, you don't have that buildup. And if we think from a psychological perspective, it has to do with our nervous system, right? There is that space in the beginning where we're in a good spot, prefrontal cortex. We're able to turn on and turn off what we say to our kids. We're calm and patient and connected. And then time 5,321, we're ready to throw that all out the window and also consider the children sitting on the bumper. And, you're just at that point. And I think couples really finding attunement with each other is a challenge. And it's a lot of conversation that needs to happen, a lot of grace given to one another, private conversation, right? Without the kids around. So
that's what I was going to ask from what you just said is, how do you find time for that private conversation? Because like for us, because we're choosing to homeschool, we don't have preschool, we don't do daycare, our couple time is very limited, and having, adult conversations oftentimes is at like 5 a.m. when the kids are asleep, or putting TV on so we can go in the other room and have conversation. But, it's that fine balance of also like not having certain conversations when they're coming home from work and they're decompressing, because we don't want to escalate something that possibly wouldn't be as such a, it's like finding the right time to have those, whatever the conversation is. Hudson was a little more aggressive with Harlow this set you were gone. And how do we navigate that? Like,
right.
It's really hard to find the time to talk about that too.
Huge. And it's hard also being the default parent, because you want your partner to have the opportunity to give their input. That's why we joined together, had a relationship, and had these kiddos. And most of the time, at least in the beginning, we thought they had a lot of good ideas, or we trusted their judgment. So you're right. We really do need to see it from their lens and from our lens, and to talk about it and not be rushed. Obviously, Amanda, you're well aware that it's not the best time, to do it right when they get home. So there are so many limitations to time. And I think these days we end up TV, movies, electronics. We try to find a way to have something occupy their mind. I'm a big believer, though, that we have to find family, friends, anyone who we feel safe with babysitting, and get out of the house and have separate dates that are fun, and then dates that are actually working dates. It's kind of like work. If you went on a work retreat and part of it was the work and then the rest of it's the retreat, we need those dates where we're really sitting down and basically the kids maybe are even out at your house to do it. Because sometimes we need them to go to grandma's, please, so we can be home and go through some finances. So we can be home in our own house and have time for deeper conversations or to organize things. And so I think proactively as families, we've got to be looking ahead and thinking, okay, I can go about 90 days and then we're going to need kiddos to go to movie night with uncle and aunt or what have you. We go a long time without having these conversations, huh? Longer than the rest of the world that's texting each other all day throughout the day.
That's a really good point, and it's something that I've actually haven't heard. I know Maggie mentioned our marriages take work. And when Jay and I were on that podcast, Jay kind of like, whoa. But the reality is it takes work. When I know when Jay was going through a few promotions and the work that it took to get ready for the test, you can't get around it. Those are work. Our marriages, they may not be able to get the same amount of time, but I love the idea of we need a date that's where we sit down and have conversations about certain topics, the finances, the up and coming things, what behavioral things that we're looking at. And like you said, that 18-hour brain, there's just no way we can have it the first day that they're home.
It's so hard. And, I think it's also, to go back to that stuff for a second, I think they are conditioned to do mapping and planning type meetings, especially if they're on the union or peer support. They kind of set the goals for the year and they set the stage for things. So the more we can emulate the fire service, as silly as that sounds, we're going to get a conditioned response to that. We calendar, we schedule it. It's intentional. We're a product of our environment. So
I like that. The more we emulate what they're already doing, you're kind of salmon flow. You're kind of getting into their type of thinking and planning the way that they already know how to plan and think. I like that.
We're all conditioned, right? I'm curious from you guys what you think about the proverbial canoe. There's another clinician I like a lot, Dr. Catherine Butler, and her background's Navy and being a Navy spouse and also being in the Navy. And then she talks about the family canoe and how for first responder families, specifically fire service, when they're gone for a while, when they come home, they step in our canoe. Sometimes they want to row the canoe right out the gates. Other times they want to take a nap in the canoe in the back where it's heavy and we're up in the front of the kids, but ultimately they rock the canoe. And them getting out of the canoe is also another shift, change, transition. And so, I'm always curious what other people have done. Stephanie, like what has worked for you with our kids that are adolescents, like my kids' age, playing sports, and you're just basically a taxi service. And,
Yeah, it's funny you ask, because the way we navigated that was not necessarily flawless at all. But the way we did it was jump in, and when you're ready, take a task. Just pick up and take a task. And that's about it. So we ran the home where he was the military dad, and I was still structure. But I was more of the compassion. Let me hear what you have to say. And that was something that was really interesting too. So in raising, we had daughter, son, and in raising our family, I had to kind of step back. And when he parented the sons differently, there were times where I really had to kind of really bite my lip and ask him about some of those things later, because he's raising men and it may not have the same perspective as mom raising men. And to be able to give space for him to be able to do that and say, okay, this is why there's two parents, there's two perspectives. And when you're raising men, it kind of needs to come in some areas from the man leading these men.
It's huge. And there's so many books about that too. Literally, there's a book, Raising Men, and there's all the Jocko books and all of these different things. I think right about that right away, about the idea that there will be a day and a time where my son tries to step to my husband. I've heard that session after session after session, whether it's just he's big for his britches someday, or he just wants to wrestle dad, which we see at a young age, right? Or he says, I'm a teenager now. What do you know? And I know this day will come. And that's a big part of raising men. Men raise men, and it's a very special thing. Women can do it too. There's a lot of single moms or single firefighter moms that do a great job. But just we have this awareness of the gender differences in that too.
And that's a good point, because of the absence, the reality is they are so absent, and they hit, our husbands hit, or our kids hit puberty, husbands are gone. And the reality is it's coming at mom a lot of times. So how we have that conversation, I'll never forget the day where I asked my son, hey, you got this much amount of time, be home by this time. And it started to get darker faster than I thought. And he came in and I go, dude, what's the deal? Why did you come in? And I'll never forget, it was almost like an out of body. He got super red and he stepped in. And I said, and I took one step back and I go, think about that. Just pause and think about that. This is not going to go well. You have an opportunity to go upstairs and take a break. But in that, like, the reality is, no matter what, they might be coming for mamas too. And how we can be prepared for that is something that we could have conversations about.
I think so too. Like pre-conversations. How can we be prepared for the stages that are coming? And they're coming faster. I've got a tween girl, right? We'll call it that. A pre-adolescent. She's definitely starting to have the hormones, and I don't know why I'm crying thing is happening. And, there are times where she is just mad at mom, and having a partner step in and not demand respect, but there is something about saying, like, we respect our parents, and I'm not going to allow you to treat your mother, my wife, like that. That's not going to go in this house. That's powerful. And there are a few times when that needs to happen, but it does need to happen. That's that. I always respect your parent. And teenagers are really good at splitting parents, going to one for something, getting a different answer, going to the other, or even getting parents to fight with each other. That's when you really get a test of your parenting style. So I can say we're already getting a little bit of that. All the hormones. So fun. So
yeah. How many times do we say, you don't have to like what I'm saying, but we need to work together to make sure at the end of the day, mom and dad are here, or whoever's here. You don't have to like it. I'm not asking you to like it. I'm asking you just to do it. And we can have more conversations later, but
it's huge. It's huge. Having your partner step up for you without you asking them to do that. Or maybe you guys didn't get to talk about something, but they say, you know what, I respect what mom said because I know she loves you, and I didn't get to talk to her about this, but the answer is no. Oh my gosh, that fills my love tank. That is like foreplay or something. I don't know, but I mean, it is good stuff. So I really want all the men that are listening to think about that too. We isolate things. We think, oh, I'll tell my wife she's beautiful. Well, sometimes it's really important to tell your wife, I watched you and you were an awesome mom out there. And then also back it, or just be that united front without even having to talk about it. And that's super
that's
powerful.
Huge. So huge.
Yeah.
Sorry, Amanda, what's
No,
your next one?
My mind is just like blown from both of your perspectives. And again, my toddler wisdom and seeing my future, but also little glimpses of things that I see now. I just think most days my canoe is like very shaky, sometimes in the water. I used to be a type A person, super regimented and structured. And then I had kids and, I was drowned. So I'm like climbing my way through getting some more structure as we approach homeschool, and I'm kind of forced to do that. I like having freedom. I like having a rhythm, but, John is much more, since joining the fire service, he became that print out the calendar to get his ducks in a row and see life. And we have a shared calendar. We have a giant hearth calendar in our kitchen. He looks at that every day. We put everything on there. So that kind of keeps things for us, coordinated when he is home, and when he's not home, it's still on our phones. And I feel like he can be a lot more, rigid with things than me. At times, I feel like we're a good balance of what we choose to be more rigid on. And I think, especially as we're, again, embarking on homeschool, John's super supportive of me and sharing with Hudson all the hard work that I do to make this possible for him to be at home and have unique personalized learning just for him, and have these experiences and adventures, and not, be away from the family on days that dad is home, and, kind of like painting that picture and supporting what our decision has been that's best for the family. And like you said, that is a huge turn on to be like, oh, thank you. Like, I liked hearing that. It's really nice and affirming, because sometimes it feels really lonely to be parenting for 4 days alone. And like, am I crazy? Am I doing the best? I think I'm doing the best. Did I make a wrong choice? I just feel when I do hear that in different ways from him, like you said, that united front, I don't always feel that. So to hear it in a scenario where he's parenting, it's like, wow, that was incredible to hear.
So neat. And you feel valued.
Yeah.
All the work that you put in for I call it the family business, right? Because you guys had these kids, you bought this house, you did these things, someone's got to take care of it. It's appreciated. And that's super important. I think we want to know that what we do matters too, because they do big things, and they do big things and hard things and sacrifice a lot. They miss a lot of things. And I hope they're more appreciated by the world every day. But we do hard things too. And I think that it takes a really good team to make it all balance out. And so feeling like what I'm doing is important, they value it still. It's a big deal.
That's a good point. If we take anything out of this, the family business, and if we affirm each other, dad, mom, dad, and the kids hearing the affirmations through that united front, if anything, that is just a huge win in parenting.
Huge. They'll repeat it too. It's so neat, especially, your sons are hearing the father affirm mom and show that there's value in what she's doing and how she's raising. That's the best way we can transmit good things. It's a multi-generational transmission of good behavior, because then he is likely to do that in his family, or she is likely to carry that forward. So we can change the tides, even if we grew up in a household where that's not how we were raised and that's not what we heard. As a united front, we can change these tides moving forward.
I'm super excited about this webinar to get, you just asking us these questions and having all these different perspectives and guiding us through the family business is going to be pretty cool.
I think we're going to have a good time. And it's so neat because it's fluid, because it's what we all live. And there are textbooks to back new ways to do things. And there's also, we'll call it historical or ancient wisdom. I want to learn from mentors that have done and walked the paths and braved the journeys I haven't been on yet, like Steph and Amanda. You're hearing some of the things. And so that's the beauty of us as a fire family coming together and taking care of each other. And I really think Ventura Fire Foundation has figured this out, and their goals are good because they're really looking to take care of things and make it more tight knit. So the more we can talk about things, the better.
Amen. Amen.
Thanks for listening. This is Joe from Ventura Fire Foundation. We have an exciting lineup of free webinars for firefighter families in 2024. In November, Tiffany Atalla, marriage and family therapist and firewife, will speak to the unique challenges of parenting in fire families. The webinars are open to fire families throughout the U.S. and will be held on Zoom. There are limited seats available though, so register soon. You can register on our website or through the link in the show notes. All of the webinars will be recorded and made available on our website and YouTube channel. Support from Vanguard Charitable made this series possible, and we thank them. Now back to the show.
Coping with unpredictabilities. I think, did we get into that at all?
Yeah, I think that would be a good one. I think that's one thing, like we were mentioning before, where my kids are younger, so they don't necessarily have a concept of really what 2 days is versus tomorrow, days of the week don't have a concept. So when it's like, maybe daddy's going to come home, I haven't heard from him, we didn't get to talk to him yesterday, they didn't get to say goodnight, I haven't heard from him, like even just that type of thing is a challenge. We don't even talk about the fact of like the real dangers of his job. We're not there. Just the level of unpredictability of talking with dad and having that connection with him is already hard. I don't know what I'm going to do when we get into that, when they realize like, daddy, like, wait, he's, they know he's a firefighter, they know houses are on fire, but it's not real like that yet for them.
Well, it's interesting. I think fortunately, unfortunately, that most kiddos live in kind of a state of denial, just like we do the majority of the time. you're going to get those questions, especially if there's a critical incident or one that's in the media that directly affects them. And you'll be ready. I mean, we figure it out. However, I think there's this level of denial that we live in. Otherwise, if we were facing it every single day, we'd be paralyzed with fear. And our kids have a way of seeing dad for dad and not always seeing dad for the firefighter that he or she, and I'm saying dad, but it could be mom, whoever's in the fire service, and that's okay. So there's so many things you can do for unpredictability. I'm a big fan of, if you don't know if they're coming home, then don't say they are. Surprises are way more fun. And one of the things I wish I had done when my kids were younger, because I thought what a neat idea it would be, is have dad do a letterbox and make some cards or some letters. He doesn't have to make the cards unless he's crafty or something, but write some little notes or letters, and that those only get opened when dad can't come home. Nowadays we have phones, so he can even do voice recordings that you hold on to. And it can be anything from him reading a book to just a quick message to even a prayer, if that's for your family, the appropriate thing that you guys do replay at night. So there are ways to keep dad very involved. And I think that's really important for kids to have that consistency. So the more rituals we can do where dad feels like a constant, the easier it is for that whole canoe I was talking about, for dad to reintegrate home as well.
Great idea.
What about us though, you guys? Because I don't know if I'm just I'm going to say control freak, but I'm just the person that really doesn't like change. I planned to get my hair cut. I've been waiting to get my hair cut for 3 months. And now I don't know if you're getting forced or if you're coming home. I can handle big things in life, but for some reason that might be the straw that breaks my camel's back. Okay. So I'm curious what you guys have done, because I know for me, one of the greatest helps has been having my husband ask his family's not from the fire service, and say, if I get sent out on a fire and I send you guys a text, can you guys step up? Because this is what it's going to look like for her. And this is more when they were little versus me having asked for help. Because one of the things that we're kind of conditioned to do as a husband and wife pair, a fire family, is to not ask for help. We got this, we got this, we got this. But by him setting the stage, it made it easier when things would come up. They would say, you want to come for dinner? How can I help? And then of course, outsourcing. I just got to have my backup people so that I don't always have to alter because of my own mental stability and normalcy and being able to look forward to things and them coming true. So what do you guys do for that? Or have you done?
So for me, I was just in survival mode, like I mentioned, until John was hospitalized last July for rhabdomyolysis. And it put things in perspective of not having those people that we just asked to do things. Like, we knew there people existed that we could, but we never did. Like you said, it's not in our nature to call upon them, but they just showed up and stepped in because his family lives out of state and my mom is 2 hours away and he's in the hospital. I can't wait 2 hours. And we had fire wives, fire spouses, neighbors, non-fire related people, literally like rotating, taking turns until my mom could come, until my cousin could come and help with the kids. And that was my first eye-opening experience of people want to help us. We are not a burden. And if my plans to get my hair get mixed up because John ends up being at work, I can ask his cousin because she's only 15 minutes from the appointment. And so I can drive the kids there, have my appointment, not miss my appointment. And the kids have so much fun because they're with his cousin. It's something different for them. And I still got something for me and I'm not missing out. I don't have resentment. I don't have all this anxiety about what if I can go, what if I can't go. And the kids are so happy. It's like a win-win in all different ways rather than the doom and dread of like, I'm going to miss out. Now I'm mad at him, even though it has nothing to do with him.
Right.
And just realizing that, having those people we like, know, love, trust, that our kids also love. And we don't have to give up things sometimes when things are unpredictable.
Sure. You can have things be important to you, even if they seem silly and small. And I heard you say, it's hard to ask for help, but you realize people want to help. And I think that was a reality for me too, is that I know I do it for them, no problem, but it's way more uncomfortable to ask. And so I think us all getting used to extending the offer, knowing that our fellow fire sister, they're not going to ask.
Yeah.
Mine isn't as pretty. Mine is down, dirty, and ugly.
Let's hear it.
This has been such a wonderful new culture that has been created. But I'm 20 years ago. And if I'm honest, codependent. I am going to make sure I tackle it all and lose myself in the process. So, and not even know that there are some resentments that ended up needing to be tackled. I wanted to be the end all be all. I'm going to be your best cheerleader. I'm going to be your best supporter. And so it wasn't as pretty. It was cancel it and deal with it. Suck it up, buttercup kind of stuff, and ended up getting through it just fine. But to have these new, set your community up, understand your worth, understand that you are running a family business and there are family partners. And that means have your people available, because as much as you help, people want to help. And that creates good, cohesive friendships, as well as purpose in other people, as well as your kids. So mine just was not that.
I'm glad though that we're talking about that, because the losing yourself. I sacrifice all to be what we signed up for. I signed up for this. I should show I can do it. It's hard. And then also the opposite of that is being different from that and feeling selfish. I struggle with that a lot, of going, wow, I feel selfish. And is that really selfish, or is that self-care? So I want him to do it. I get a better version of my husband if he goes and works out and takes some time to decompress. I get a better version of him. The kids get a better version of dad. So I do want him to do it. And I'm preaching that. And if I'm not doing it too, then we're really not on the same page. It's not a balanced life. So
spot on. In fact, now that we're toward the end of the career, I am now kind of untangling the hyper independence.
Whoa, that one scares me, Steph. It really does, because I am wickedly independent, and he is too. And I know that a lot of marriages can go at this time, but then they actually come back together really beautifully. And I think I'm in the phase of, well, we're so independent. We're finally seeing that. And how do we co-mingle when you're home, and who is the captain of this household, or, both of us taking turns in that. And so I see a lot of couples that are foreshadowing what's to come for me too, as I'm
Get your own canoe.
I know, right? Right. I like to row it myself. Hey, that's diagnostic. That and equine therapy. If you want to see people have communication issues, I see them right away. Row a boat, row raft, and try to halter a horse blindfolded, two of you, and it's amazing to see what you see. But I think that there's a lot that comes back together, because you realize, wow, we both are choosing to be together. When you become that independent, you don't need each other. You have to find that you want each other and you're letting each other in. And that's really cool, because a lot of couples never become individually that independent. They grow
That's a good point. We're at the point where we get to choose each other. It's not like, I need you to go here, I need you to go there, you need to go to the soccer game, I'm not going to be able to. They're all gone. Mm-hmm. And now I choose you.
It's huge.
That's so beautiful.
I have dreams of sitting on the porch, literally sitting on the porch. I mean, that must be a fire service thing too, because we all want to sit on a porch somewhere where there are no people around. It gets too peoply out there, and we just have this dream of sitting and stopping because we're always in motion. But I have those dreams, and I hope that you guys get to do a lot of vacationing and porch sitting and sunsets and all that.
Yeah, same.
Sometimes I find it challenging to have relationships with my non-first responder mama friends, parent friends who it's just different navigating relationships, parenting. And I just, I'm curious some insight you might be able to share so that I can relate more and have more empathy in this season of parenting to my non-first responder parent friends.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you that I'm beautiful at this and eloquent, and I don't ever get frustrated when they have someone coming home to help them carry the load, right? It is frustrating because you're essentially a single parent. And I know that sometimes I remind myself that I'm not a single parent. I still have support a bit away. I still have a shared income coming in. I still have these things, but it can be extremely frustrating when it's back to school night and you're back to school mom and there's no back to school dad. And, all of these different little things where it adds up. So I do think there's so much value in having friends that aren't first responder friends. One of the things out the gates I think of is they're not taxed in the same way. And so mommy dates are really great because sometimes they're willing to come over and give their significant other a break and have dinner and maybe have wine night with you or just hang out and everyone potlucks. We used to love to do that. Everyone brings something from your fridge and hang out, but they're taking a break away from their spouse, and their spouse sometimes is in need of that because they don't have these natural breaks like we do, these work breaks. And I also think sometimes they have more emotional reserves because they haven't been doing it 24/7. They get to pass it off. And so sometimes they can be the person that's ready to support and listen and or have your kids over for a minute. So finding the balance in that. I also think it's important to have friends who maybe don't have kids or have kids that are older and want to get down on the floor and do puzzles or play. That has been such a gift to my family, is having these people that I consider to be aunt or cousin or family by choice that still think my kids are fun, or maybe they're a mentor for me. And so I get to bring my kids around them and make dinner with them and spend time. So I think it's looking at the value in how we're all so different and what resources we have emotionally or even physically to give at any given time.
I love that. Their husbands may want a break. And so you capitalize on their strengths. And then if they ever need the water turned off at the street, they know they can call you.
Yep, absolutely. We definitely know how to do it. They're not calling us to have our husband doing it. They're calling us to do it. No, I'm just kidding. So lots of goods in it. I just think it's the perspective we're looking at it. We just have to accept that our lives are very different. And then I remind myself frequently, you know what? My husband gets to be home multiple days in a row that aren't always just Saturday, Sunday, where we're rushing to go to Costco and do everything. Sometimes I get dad home like today. It's a Tuesday night and I get to do this with you ladies because my husband's taking 2 kids to competitive soccer at different fields and wrangling the bears. So I just try to look at what are the things that are really good and special and unique. And that goes back to our kids too. When they're sad about mom, dad, who's in the fire service being gone, reminding them that we're going to get extra special time. Well, tomorrow, when dad comes home, he's going to go to your Patriot Days assembly at school or whatever it is. And it's at 9 a.m. And a lot of parents don't get to do that. So we kind of highlight what's extra special about that.
And that's exactly the beauty of having this community that we want to be just building, is like, help me have that perspective when I am rocking in my canoe alone for however long. And I get to reach out to you ladies in my sisterhood and be reminded of that. And you also validate, yes, it is hard. I've been there. You're going to get to the other side. And I believe you.
And Steph reminded us that white knuckling it is not the best. I mean, you can do it. I have faith, but it is hard. So
yeah, all of these awesome tools are such a great, you put these tool belts on and have these perspectives, know who you are. It's a family business. We're all in this together. We all have a job, and it looks different in all these different families. But the fact is, we can have some really good tools to pull from. And thank you, Tiffany.
you guys are welcome. Thanks for having me on. It's always fun to spend this time with you guys as well, and hope that the listeners have some fun feedback or maybe more questions that come from it, because I would love to give them more advice, resources, research things as we're coming into this November event.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll make sure and put it out there, Amanda, and ask them, hey, you can send them anonymously. You can ask away, but don't forget to be on for the podcast or for the webinar.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Tiffany. We really appreciate it. I'm so grateful. I feel so spoiled.
Oh, I'm grateful. Thank you for giving me this time with you guys. So looking forward to the next time we all get together.
Wow. What another cool episode with Tiffany Atalla. I'm so grateful she gave us this sneak peek into what her upcoming webinar will be on November 19th. Be sure to click the link in the show notes to register.
Some great things that came out of today's podcast. Tiffany Atalla really talked about it's a family business. We're running a family business, and how to affirm each other. Dads affirming moms in front of kids, moms affirming dads, really giving our kids jobs to do to take care of things while dad's gone. Dad's coming home. Tiffany talked about, we're going to make brownies. We better get the stuff for brownies. Really empowering our kids to be part of the family business. They're not just accessories. They are working, pieces to the family business. It was really cool to hear her talking about missing dad, and maybe dad can take a favorite toy to work and then take pictures with that toy to make sure that we are always thinking of each other. I thought was a great portion of that podcast. There were so many others. So hopefully November 19th, the webinar is coming out with Tiffany talking about parenting. Tiffany also has bestsolutionsTherapy@gmail.com. You can reach her, but please register for that webinar coming up on November 19th.
Looking forward to many more of these.
Until next time.